What's up, everybody? This is Racing Dudes Live reaction to the 2021 Breeders' Cup post position draws. I am Magic. To my, I don't even know where all screwed up the directions. I got Mike Somich here, and of course Aaron and Jared with the Racing Dudes. Gentlemen, we had a good draw, a good time with the draw. We were hanging out, cracking jokes. So I feel like, especially with some alcohol involved, we're gonna have a lively show here. So first off, let's start off with you guys' overall impressions. Aaron, I'll start with you.
Well, I think, you know, as far as the Friday races go, there wasn't a whole lot that makes you go, ooh, I don't like that. But I think the Saturday races, especially a couple of favorites in the turf drawing way to the outside, kind of makes you pause a little bit. So I think that was the big thing for me. Tarnawa drawing 13, you know, that definitely was kind of a, oh man, this may be an opportunity.
Jared, what about you? What were your just general reactions to the draw?
Yeah, I mean that was interesting. I think on Friday card, you want to look at that. I think, you know, kind of looking at the TVG Juvenile and seeing Jack Christopher draw the one hole there, kind of, you know, gave you a little bit of pause. Obviously, on the flip side of that, you've got Corniche all the way towards the outside, so you kind of have that debate on who's going to like what post better. So I thought that was a little bit interesting. It kind of gives you a thought if you are going to try to beat those two. Maybe gives you some sort of angle there to do so.
Mike, we'll go to you and then also factor in here Nick Feldman's question. I know you guys respect John White, but what are your thoughts on making morning lines before the post positions? I know that's a pretty common thing for this, but Mike, your overall thoughts and then react to Nick.
Yeah, I mean, look, it seemed like the wide open races got more wide open. The kind of the horses, like I like the Bowie Legend, who ended up drawing I think it was the 14 post. California Angel draws the 14 post. I know that Aaron mentioned
Tarnawa
already, who draws the 13. The 12 goes to Daria, who won last year. I mean, so you have some of the most wide open races that all end up with the favorites or the horses that I liked on top specifically, all ending up outside. That it's going to change it up a little bit. I'm not sure that you're going to see, you know, 4 winners out of the 10 plus posted out of these races. So you really got to make some decisions based on those draws. As far as the morning line, I mean, I think you kind of have to, right? Because part of it is posting the morning line right there on the board. I'm sure if John could, he'd like to adjust these slightly after it. But with this level and this caliber of horse, the draw doesn't generally make as much difference unless it's in those big fields. Like, look, no matter how you draw the sprint, no matter how you draw the mile, those odds weren't changing, right? It's just in the larger turf fields where you're trying to avoid the bad posts.
Aaron, I'll jump in
real quick. I can vouch for John because I've had this discussion with him, and I can't say that I know exactly what he's saying right now, but I'm sure he uttered a few cuss words when some of those horses drew those posts. Because the one thing that he always really hates about making morning lines for the Breeders' Cups is exactly what Nick Feldman says. They force him to make the morning line for these races before he knows the post positions. So yeah, I'm sure he is not thrilled at all with how some of these horses drew. But the bottom line is there isn't much he can do about it.
Jared, Brady in the comments said that the chalk all drew well. Is that kind of how you felt, that the chalk, at least the chalk that you felt pretty good about playing? Did you feel like they all drew pretty well? Or is Tarnawa the one that's throwing you off?
Yeah, I mean, Tarnawa is, you know, but I don't know. Maybe that's a sign, because I was kind of wanting to try to beat her anyways. So I mean, I think maybe that's an angle to do so. No, I mean, otherwise, I think I can't really think of a horse. You know, Latruska drew well. You know, obviously the mile, that's going to be, you know, it's going to be a mess no matter how you want to. Jackie to that inside. You know, obviously following Steve Jackie Sawyer right there, very well familiar. But to me, it's like, these kind of horses like that like I'm kind of with Somich, like they're not going to make a huge difference on terms, especially a 9-horse field on a sprint. Like Jackie's going to leave the gate. He's going to do his thing. I don't necessarily feel like there's not a lot of negative that can come from these post positions other than, maybe a random turf race.
Well, the chat's starting to jump into the Friday races, so let's go ahead and take a look at it here while I keep updating everything on the website, and then we can have that pulled up pretty soon. The Juvenile Turf Sprint is what started things off, and a big field with a lot of question marks about this. Averly Jane was a horse that a lot of us were really excited about playing, one of several in here for Wesley Ward. So with Averly Jane, end up drawing 8 in a field of 12. Aaron, I'll start with you. She's the 5-2 favorite. Is 8 the right spot for her in this field with turf sprints?
Yeah, 8's a good spot. It's a really good spot, especially at Del Mar. I did not want her buried inside, and I didn't want her way out on the, on the outside of the turf course. So 8's perfect. This race drew really tough, a lot tougher than I thought it would. So I think her main concern is the competition rather than the post position. Still think she looks tough, deserving favorite. I think 8's perfect for her. But like I said, there's a lot of horses that can kind of run her down in this field.
Jared, you took a good hard look at the Juvenile Turf Sprint, and I know Averly Jane was a horse that you looked at. Based off the post draws, did your opinions change initially on any horses here?
Not really. Not too much, I should say. I'm going to need to dive into this thing a little bit deeper after I have these. But as far as I know, or as far as I can tell so far, as far as my thoughts were going into that race, I didn't see a lot that swayed me one way or the other. That's that race there though is tough. I mean, Averly Jane obviously very good. I think the big takeaway there, right, is that Wesley Ward entered. I mean, we knew that the tube is kind of whatever, but that he entered Twilight Gleaming as well. I think that kind of tells you that, and that Averly Jane maybe isn't. I don't feel like he would enter both those horses if he knew that Averly Jane was just an automatic lock to win the thing. So kind of like Golden Pal was last year. So I think that kind of gives you a little pause in terms of how you're going to play one of those, because obviously the trend is very favoring to Wesley Ward if you're going to go that route.
Mike, one of your favorite races to handicap, they're turf sprints. So this is a race I always look to you for your thoughts on them. A lot of speed signed on all the time. And a one-timer is the horse that kind of caught my attention that has a lot of early speed for E.T. Baird coming from Arlington. Kind of drawn outside pretty much all the speed there. Pace-wise, looking at this before, you have your past performances in front of you, what do you think about the pace?
I mean, I think Averly Jane is just faster than this group. And she is so quick out of the gate. If she's able to step away by a couple lengths early, and I think it's going to be tough for them to keep close to her, I think she's really dangerous. And I would agree with Jared. A lot of times a trainer putting 3 in here really scares you. I'm not sure where any of these other horses would run for big money anytime soon, though. I think that kind of the Breeders' Cup almost allows you to put a couple in here, because if Twilight Gleaming runs second here, that might be the most that Twilight Gleaming can make running in a turf sprint the rest of the year. And so, for these type of races, I'm not as worried. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a Wesley Ward exacted in this spot.
Yeah, it was the Wesley Ward who's a specialist with turf sprints, especially with 2-year-olds. You're right. It's hard for him to find a spot when they all seem pretty good. A couple comments here. We can move on. Nick Feldman says Twilight Gleaming getting our ride back makes her dangerous. Him dangerous from post 6. Vinny Blonde. Anyone surprised at one-timer being 4-1 and a lot of hype coming in here? You guys just raise your hands. Anybody surprised by that, or were you expecting a lower price? Mike's surprised. Aaron's surprised. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
I was expecting closer to 8 or 10-1. I mean, the horse is just unproven, and so you was a win at Arlington and then comes and wins at Santa Anita, but it hasn't really faced anything near this type of level. So I think that's a little bit short for me.
And it's comment from Kevin here. He says E.T. Baird will be the crowd favorite. Yeah, and maybe that's partly into why the horse's odds will be so low. And then Howard Kretz says one-timer drawn right outside Averly Jane. That's tricky. Yeah, that's going to be a tricky spot there. Any final thoughts? You guys ready to move on to the next race? We'll move on. Silence is golden. Juvenile fillies here. One of a few races with really small fields. This isn't the worst of them, but just 6 in here. And Juju's Map 5-2, Hidden Connection 5-2, Echo Zulu 4-5, big heavy favorite. Jared, I'll start with you. Take a look at this Juvenile fillies race in 6 horses. Does Echo Zulu get stopped, or is she just too fast?
I'm not ready to say she's too fast. I think it's another one of those. I love the fact that you have Juju and Echo Zulu right there side by side. You see a throwdown between these two and kind of see what they're about. I don't know that I like 4 to 5 seems. I don't know if I would play 4 to 5 on Echo. Like I don't think she's a. I get why she's 4 to 5. I don't know I can play 4 to 5 considering that I think that Juju. We just don't know. Like that horse could be really good, really good. As far as being too fast, I think she's fast. I don't think she's unbelievably faster than Juju's Warrior or Juju's Map.
Aaron, were you the one that was covering juvenile fillies? I can't remember.
I don't think so. No.
Well, tell me your thoughts, anyways.
Maybe I was. I don't even remember anymore. But look, I felt like this was a 2-horse race coming into it before the draw. I mean, I don't think with 6 horses there was anything to make you go one way or the other. As far as it, I mean, I just think Echo Zulu, Juju's Map. How are we really supposed to separate these two, right? I think Juju's Map does have the advantage of having those 2-turn races. And, if you're going to go with that situation, then yeah, I think that's the one to use. But Echo Zulu has looked awfully, awfully good. And we don't know what she's going to do with 2 turns, but we don't necessarily know it's going to be bad, So I think these two are just much better than the others. I think that's why we only see 6 horses in this race. I think you just use those 2 and move on.
We had a surprise special early episode of the Magic Mike Show. So Mike and I got to talk about the fact that Ain't Easy dropped out this morning, and the second she was out, her rider Joel Rosario replaces Ricardo Santana Jr. on Echo Zulu, and Santana had been a rider for all 3 of her starts, all wins. So it was a little surprising. Asmussen Munoz said that the reason for the decision was because of where the race is being held, meaning Joel Rosario is very talented when it comes to California. Ricardo Santana Jr. couldn't win a 1-horse race on the moon. So Aaron and Jared, I'll ask you guys, were you surprised by this, and how did it affect your overall thoughts on Echo Zulu?
Well, if you want me to start, I kind of told you, said, explain this one to me. I said, real easy. Ricardo Santana can't win a race right now, and you don't want a dead cold jockey going to ride a 4 to 5 favorite at the Breeders' Cup when you have a guy like Joel Rosario that you can get, period. Right. So I thought it was a great move, and I think it helps Echo Zulu's chances.
Same for you, Jared?
It made me, honestly, because obviously if you're wanting value, you're going for the 5, but when you see that move by Asmussen, you're like, okay, he's serious about this horse. Like he's gonna, he wants to get this horse in the winner's circle. He's got Rosario on board. Kind of feels like you're gonna see a test, right? These two hit the top of the stretch, and it's just gonna be a matter of 2 things: 1, how good is Juju's Map, and 2, how good is Echo Zulu around 2 turns.
Yep. Yeah, as Nick Feldman says in the chat, the way the race is drawn, it should play out just like Juju's last race. Let the speed clear stock in second and see if she's good enough to pass. We'll see if anybody's good enough against Echo Zulu. And the Juvenile Fillies Turf is the next one. We can move on to this one. Another big field, 14 in here. And one of the big surprises when we were talking live behind the scenes was California Angel drawn all the way outside 14, which is a terrible spot, going a 2-turn turf mile because it's a very quick run to that turn. But 8-1 seems like a really short price on this horse that kind of like E.T. Baird with one-timer. Yeah, a lot of people are loving the story behind things that rarely plays out at the Breeders' Cup into success. So, you have your Chad Browns, your Brad Coxes. Boy, they look really tough in here. Jared, I'll start with you because this is a race where the Americans, even though they're, you think Europeans with turf, this is the race the Americans have won a lot. 11-13, I believe. Looking at this, does it look like the Americans keep it going?
I really appreciate you giving this to me first. Really do. This is a monster clusterfuck of a race. I mean, it really is. Like it. Yes. I mean, I don't. Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe it seems like we have a lot in here. Chad Brown, obviously has a 2. Brad Cox has a couple. So it's just, yeah, we could. I mean, but. I think, Halter and I have talked about this a lot on Blinkers Off. It's like, yeah, but which one are you going with? Where are you going? You almost just have to take your spot and lean on it and just hope you're right. Because honestly, it kind of feels like, and I say this and probably be like a 10-length winner, but I mean, it feels like it's like they're all going to be, turning for home with a shot.
Aaron?
Yeah, this race is one of the best ones of the whole thing, right? I mean, this is such a great betting race. The horses I like are all 8-1 or higher in this race, and I didn't have to do that because I'm hunting for price plays. I did it because those are the horses I liked. I didn't know what their odds would be, and they've come up to be 8-1 or higher. So that's my top 4 are all 8-1 or higher. So I'm very excited about it. As far as a draw goes, I mean, I don't know. It's I don't think it made a huge difference with the draw here. Other than, I mean, if you're a California Angel fan or owner or whatever, that's going to be tough from out there. But I tell you what, this is just one hell of a race.
Mike, a horse that doesn't, or a combination we don't often see is Irad Ortiz Jr. riding for Brad Cox, and yet that's what we've got here with Bubble Rock, who's 8-1. Drew pretty well, in my opinion, with post 5. And stretching out from sprinting, Nick Feldman asked, find it interesting that Bubble Rock shows up here in Irad stays. Could this be the pace of the race, Mr. Somich?
Yeah, it's interesting that Bubble Rock is going to get Irad here, especially when you have Chad Brown bringing one in from New York. It's a Kalleward horse where it's like, wait a second, why is that trifecta not sticking together? So that definitely makes you at least scratch your head. Others head scratcher for me. No matter where Pizza Bianca was drawn, Pizza Bianca was going to be the favorite at 5-1. Like, no matter what. I mean, this is a wide open race. And the pace is going to be interesting. I do think Bubble Rock has a chance of being out there. I mean, I agree with Aaron. You don't even need to price hunt here. You're just going to get a price. And the thing is if you can find a way in multi-race wagers to single or go too deep here, you are separating yourself from the field like crazy. Because there's going to be, I mean, we talked about how the mile last year was an all-button race. This is going to be an all-button race. It's a 14-horse all-button race. I mean, that's going to make it really hard to spread anywhere else. So you're going to see some people go really deep here and go really short in a couple of the races that we just talked about, specifically with Averly Jane and with Echo Zulu. And if you do that, and you can find a way to be contrarian in those two spots and go short here, you're setting yourself up for a huge score going into the last 2 races of the day.
Well, and it doesn't help that it seems like every day goes by, we lose a couple dirt horses, but the turf horses, they're all still intact.
They're good.
The Breeders' Cup Juvenile, this is the big race everybody cares about on Friday, so why is it not the last race? I don't really understand. Field of 12 in here. I was actually a little surprised that they ended up getting a dozen because you've got Jack Christopher on the rail at 9-5, and you've got Corniche all the way outside at 12 at 5-2. Corniche was probably going to be my top pick here, and I think I'm starting to second guess that. But Mike, I'll stick with you here with the Juvenile. 2-horse race, 1-horse race. What is this?
It's a 12-horse race, Magic. There's 12 of them going to the gate. This got harder, right? I mean, like Jack Christopher and Carnage are the 2 that you kind of want to make a case for, and all of a sudden you have big negatives with them both being outside and inside. You also kind of have to wonder what Barbosa and Pinehurst are going to do now, because there's no way that they're going to send right and force Carnage even wider if they're both Bafferts, and so like you can't really run the Baffert blocker play for Carnage now because of where they drew. I mean, the draw to me opened this race up like crazy. But I mean, consumer spending's gotten the 10-horse year's gotten a ton of buzz, as well as that he was going to run big. He's got a couple big derby bets placed on him as well already. He dropped from 60 to 40-1 in the future odds pool. I mean, this race is just absolutely wide open, and the draw made it even murkier to me.
Aaron, Mike brings up a great point. Command Performance, the 10-horse, is a maiden, and it's coming into this at 5-1. And up until the draw, we were getting a lot of comparisons. Good Magic, who in 2017, Jared Welch bet to win this as a maiden. He was exiting a second place in the Champagne Stakes. That's what you got with Command Performance. But Jerry, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you were 5-1 on Good Magic. So, Aaron, the steam on this horse is really strong. Are you starting to get scared off of him? Are you changing your opinion at all?
This race, I'm completely back to the drawing board after the draw. This is the one where I'm like, well, shit, I got to start all over with this one. I don't want to bet a maiden at the Breeders' Cup at 5-1. No, but at the same time, I do think this race all of a sudden screams upset, right? The one thing I think with Jack Christopher, coming out of races that are a little bit shorter, 1-turn races, now drawing the rail, I kind of think we know the strategy now. We're going to send and we're going to try to take him gate to wire. And let's see if he can get 2 turns. I mean, if he can get the distance, this post really doesn't hurt him. But as a 2-year-old breaking from a rail, 11 horses to the outside of him, what if he doesn't break very well? I mean, there's also a chance that he could have some trouble as well. Gosh, I've debated this one for a while. I really don't want to take the maiden at 5-1. I don't know. I'm back at the drawing board. I got to find a price here.
Vinny said from Real Dynasty says he'll take one for the team. Bet the maiden at 5-1. Jared, 2 questions. Do you feel comfortable betting this maiden at 5-1 like you did Good Magic with much better odds And then also talk about the pace setup a little bit, because Howard here says that he thinks Jack and Corniche are going to throw it down in the Juvenile. So what do you see as far as the pace setup goes, along with your thoughts on the 5-1 maiden?
I think I might play. I don't know. We'll see. If it's post time, it's 5-1. I might. I just don't. I think there's enough excuses you can come up with the 1 and the 12 there, where and you look at the 5 the 10, and you're like, he's 5-1, and yeah, I get that that's a low price, but I mean, to me, the draw was fine. He's not a horse that's going to be really forwardly placed. You get IRAD back. One of my big talking points on the trends every year is that this is like a future class race. Obviously, Good Magic was a big. I mean, he obviously panned out very nicely after this race. So I kind of feel like Command Performance does seem like that kind of horse that we'll be seeing a lot of next year. Yeah, I mean, to me, it makes sense that if you want to play him, he makes a lot of sense. But I'm with Halterman a little bit too with Jack Christopher and really Corniche. I mean, if they're good enough, the post shouldn't. Like, those days should still win. I think you're just kind of having to lean on some sort of – that's what the Breeders' Cup's all about, trying to find some sort of excuse or at least an angle, because you got to play against somebody, right? Pace-wise, dude, I mean, I think it makes it interesting with the 12. You got to think Corniche, he's still going to be sent, right? Because that's just going to be his only way to win is just to go. Jack Christopher, another horse, I mean, he's going to be pinned on the inside – so he's going to want to go. He's going to want to be forwardly placed. So you got to think you're going to have at least some sort of pace set up where this pace is extremely high. Because both those horses are going to, like, their solution to win this race is going to be to go immediately. Now, maybe they back off somewhat, the one being Jack Christopher, but they're going to have to go in order to get out of the gate and get in some sort of position. And it's going to set up probably a pretty fast early pace.
And if you're someone who's looking for, if you think that's the case and possibly turn into a meltdown here in the chat, Steve Gilfeather says Oviatt class and Giant Game have triple-digit late pace numbers according to. Whoops, hang on, I lost my mic. There we go. Interesting that the Giant Game would have late pace numbers, because wasn't he the horse that was setting the pace at Churchill and ended up Keeneland, and finished third in that meltdown behind Rattle and Roll? Am I thinking of the right horse?
Nope.
Who was that?
I don't know.
I'll figure it out later. I do know that's a Dale.
though.
I do know it's a Dale Romans horse, so feel free to bet him with your own money, please. Not mine. Let's see. Last one here. Clock End Farm. If you're looking for value, the Japanese horse Jasper the Great is a good play. Son of Arrogate, one race, 1 1/8, won by open lengths. That's the biggest question mark. So we'll see how everybody wants to play with. I
want to ask Somich because I know he's a big pace, especially early speed kind of pace. What do you think they're going to do with? They, as in Bob Baffert, and that's a loaded question. But what do you think, like with Pinehurst, or like there's obviously going to try to set something up. He's obviously a horse that's going to be forwardly placed. John Velasquez is on him now. How do you think that the whole Baffert brigade is going to play out here?
I think that is the biggest question mark in the race, because it's a two horses going doesn't necessarily create a wicked fast pace. If a third horse joins them, that's when you really see it heat up front, because you have multiple horses kind of pushing each other across. So if Pinehurst decides to insert himself here, then it's going to create a wicked pace. Like, we're talking like 45 up front here for the first half mile, and that will definitely lead toward closers dominating the race. But I'm not sure that. I mean, you got to think Baffert's going to tell the three jockeys which one of them is allowed to go, right? Mm-hmm. And I like you would think it's Corniche, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Pinehurst who drew the 8 here and drew the better speed post, where Corniche can kind of, if Baffert says, hey, clear out of the 8, and then Corniche tuck in behind, Pinehurst push Jack Christopher and we'll set it up for Corniche, or if Pinehurst is good to go, just go. I mean, I could see that playing out as well, because that's a lot easier of a scenario to set up pre-race than it is to, okay, let's have Pinehurst pull back, let the 12 go, then chase the 12, and then have the 12 press the 1, even though I think the 12 is my better horse. We're going to have him do the dirty work. Like, there's a lot of decision-making you need to do there. And to me, the most logical thing would be to send Pinehurst. But, I mean, Corniche has never had to rate, so we're not sure if Corniche can rate.
A lot of question marks coming into this one, and it'll be interesting to see as we continue handicapping, watching replays, see what we all are wanting to do. I forgot because I'm used to the Juvenile being the end. We still have one more Friday race to talk about, the Juvenile Turf. Another race, I think, just like the Juvenile, where the draw, you put 2 horses in modern games on the rail, and Dubawi Legend all the way on 14, who's your 4-1 favorite. For me, that I was already leaning modern games over Dubawi Legend, and this kind of sealed it. Aaron, I know you were kind of between those 2 horses too. Are you in the same boat? Did this seal modern games over Dubawi Legend for you?
Yeah, well, I don't really like either one of them that much for the post position wise. That's the problem. If modern games drew like the 7, I would be a little happier, but it's another situation where you're on the 1, the rail or the far outside. Dubawi Legend is a horse I liked a lot, but I think from that 14 hole, it's going to be tough, especially on the turf. Modern games still is the horse I'm kind of lukewarm with right now. I kind of like Albar, but I don't really like that post position either. So, this is another race where I felt pretty good until they drew, and now it's like, I don't know. I'm kind of going back to the drawing board a little bit here.
Mike, what about you? Modern games, Dubawi Legend, did you seal something? Are you off both?
I mean, I was going to have Dubawi Legend as one of my stronger plays of the weekend because I thought I could get a decent number on Dubawi Legend versus the chalk that I feel like I'm going to have to eat on a lot of my other opinions for the rest of the weekend. And now in the 14 hole, I'm not nearly as confident. Modern games in the 2 or the 1 hole, not great at all. And Albir drawing the 2 is awful if you watch his last Woodbine race. If he breaks the way he did last time, he's out, period. Yep. Game over. Like he's not making it up like he was able to at Woodbine. They don't have the sweeping turns in that long stretch. And so this is a very different racetrack at what it was facing. I'd say the winners are here are the U.S. horses. I mean, because you draw the 3 European contenders in the 1, 2, and the 14, the 6, the 7, and the 8, both from Europe are 12-1 and 20-1. The U.S. contenders drew significantly better than the European contenders in a race where generally it's a European contender race.
Well, and let's go off of that to the guy who runs the 14 Trends to know for the Breeders' Cup, Jared, the Juvenile Turf. The trend here is that European horses have won 10 of 14, a 71% clip, but 3 of the last 5 went to Americans. And none of those, by the way, were favored. I know Annapolis was potentially the American horse we were all putting our hopes on. With him scratching and looking at what's left, are you thinking American? You thinking Euro?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of Somich. I do feel like we got some pretty good post positions there, the Americans being. I mean, I do think it. I don't know. I kind of like to. I think to go to Dakota Gold is interesting in that spot. I thought that last race was really impressive. The transition from Saratoga to Monmouth was really good. Albar, I agree. I think that's a tough one to take. That was. I think I would stick with the Americans here. I think I would have a little more, because you have like Tiz the Bomb, who was pretty good last time out. I mean, if McPeak's in that range where he could win because it's 8-1, he needs to be a little higher, maybe. Yeah. I think that there's more. I like a little more angle here on the American side than I do the internationals.
Well, we can now we can officially move on. That's gonna be a fun race. I think it's gonna be a fun way to end things. I think we're all a little it's not the biggest race that gets us excited on Friday. I think that's where we're a little turned off that it's gonna be held. They switch it around so the Breeders' Cup Juvenile doesn't end things. Now we can go to the filly and mare sprint. You want to talk exciting? This is not the race for you. 6 fillies and mares, 5 of them facing Gamine, 3-5 favorite. We can go through this pretty quick. Aaron, your thoughts on this race and how badly do you not care?
Well, I mean, this is the one that just doesn't feel like a Breeders' Cup race. And, we were kind of talking off air, watching the draws. Anytime Gamine has been in races on big days, like the Travers, like the Kentucky Derby, on those big days, they put the races really early. They're like 5 horses. And it just kind of like, well, here's the exhibition, and now we'll get to the other races. And this feels the same, but it really shouldn't in a Breeders' Cup race. But here we are. I mean, again, it seems to me if Gamine shows up with the way she performed last year in this race, it's definitely over. And if she doesn't and kind of runs back to some of the numbers she's ran this year, Bella Sophia can beat her. Still nobody else can. It seems like a 2-horse race. It seems pretty boring to me. You're either going to get 2-5 on Gamine or 2-1 on Bella Sophia. So take your pick and move on, I guess.
Jared and Mike, do you guys see this the same way?
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that Bella Sofia didn't draw inside of Gamine at least. Would have added a little more intrigue where like maybe Bella Sofia can float Gamine a little wide or make her stalk like she had to last year. Like to make it a little interesting. But with Gamine in the 5, she's not going to give up the lead. And then it's going to be up to Bella Sofia to try and run by her around the turn, which good luck, And I doubt Bella Sofia presses to the point where someone like Cece is able to close into it. So it really sets this up to be a pretty predictable race in that sense.
Jared, you too?
I certainly think it's between those two. I'm not getting too creative here. I think it's. I mean, you have no problem singling Gamine. If you go too deep here, I mean, I go 5 and 6 and I move on.
There are 113 of you guys watching us live on YouTube right now. Thank you so much. That's amazing. If you can do us a quick favor, hit the like, hit the thumbs up, and then subscribe to the YouTube channel because we're going to be putting out a ton of content for the Breeders' Cup. So if you like this, we got a lot more good stuff coming for you. Let's move to the turf sprint here. Drawing the rail, the defending champion, Glass Slippers. She bucks the trend last year by winning it as a Euro, coming over. It's just an American race that gets bombed up pretty hard. And Mike, I consider you the turf sprint expert, the guru. Did the Americans, are they going to get this race back this year?
Oh yeah. The Americans are winning this one. I don't see any way that. Well, I shouldn't see any way, but I don't like the Europeans here. There's only a couple of them in here. Glass Slippers, I thought was lucky to win last year. To be honest, I mean, tripped out after an absolute chaotic pace early, just set up for someone to just kind of steal the race, and Glass Slippers was able to do that. Golden Pal at 7-2. I'd be shocked if you get 7-2 on Golden Pal. I would expect Golden Pal to go off closer to 2-1 or 5-2, somewhere in there. I'm probably going to try and beat Golden Pal on this spot. I like a couple other horses. We've got 5 3-year-olds, I believe, in here, but only 1 3-year-old has ever won this race before in the 13 starts. So it's kind of a good throw out all the 3-year-olds and see what you can do. And if you do that, you end up on horses like Gear Jockey, like Lieutenant Dan, that you can get at a decent price. And even though I hate Gear Jockey, I might end up playing Gear Jockey because he is coming in doing pretty well right now. So I think this is a race where you can chuck out the 3 international horses and you're able to try and chuck out the 3-year-olds and see if you can find a price after that.
Aaron, when we were watching it and filling out the numbers and everything for the website, Kamari's name came up, and you say, Kamari's in this race? And it's an understandable surprise because, well, yes, she was good as a turf sprinter. She's a grade 1 winning dirt sprinter. She should be in the race before this. That might actually make it a little bit more interesting. But Kamari shows up here. Was it the right decision? And then your thoughts on this field?
Yeah, I guess I just overlooked the fact that she was pre-entered. I thought, what do they supplement this horse? I didn't think we could do that for the Breeders' Cup. No, I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen her. I guess that the thought process is we got a better shot here than in the race before against Gamine, so let's give it a shot. I don't think she's overmatched in this race. This is a world-class horse. She's been everywhere, so I think Kamari's got a good shot. My only rebuttal to Somich's comment, I do think the 6 horse, A Case of You, if you're going to look at a Euro, that might be one to take a look at. 8-1 is a pretty good price on that horse. I generally tend to agree. The Americans are the ones you should kind of favor in this spot, but A Case of You is pretty darn good. So maybe mix that one in with some of the American horses.
Jared, the 14 trends, Golden Pal is probably going to be the big favorite here, right? Which they win just south of 40% in 13 years. But Gate to Wire horse is only 4 times in 13 years. So with that being kind of his running style, Golden Pal, you like him here? Or are you looking to chuck?
Well, I tell you what, my meter continues to kind of widen as far as I don't know. I really want to play him, but dove into the numbers on this race specifically before the post positions came out, and I'm not sure. Like I think even a Lieutenant Dan in here is very interesting at 6-1, and I think in terms of what we're going to see or what we should see, he's going to be able to sit off of Golden Pal somewhat, and whoever who wants to lead, but I imagine Golden Pal will be there. And Lieutenant Dan should be able to sit a trip, and I think that's a little more interesting to me at a price, especially versus playing Golden Pal, when his numbers just don't quite stack up as good as you might think until you look at them closely. The
interesting stat for the turf sprints at Del Mar in the summer meet, and this is, I'll say, with the preface that tracks change, things happen, and also these are world-class horses. But at the summer meet at Del Mar, at 5 furlong turf sprints, posts 1 and 2 combined to win 40% of the races. And you're looking at 2 of the 3 European horses in post 1 and 2, including your defending champion. So be very interesting to see what happens. Ricky M says Lieutenant Dan has the home field advantage. Yeah, he does. You could have gotten him at 20-25 to 1 about a month and a half ago. 6 to 1, not as nice. I do like Extravagant Kid all the way on the outside at 12 to 1. Is a horse that won the Al-Quad Sprint over in Dubai, Dubai earliest coming for Saudi earlier this year. So I'll be curious to see what happens there. But this is going to be a fun race and honestly a nice cleanse of the palate after we see the Gamine race. We'll go to the dirt mile. We'll go to the dirt mile here. All eyes on Life is Good, 4 to 5, probably around the price we thought he was going to get there. Ginobili 4 to 1, Silver State 7 to 2. Aaron, your thoughts? And Life is Good, is 4 to 5 the right price to play him?
I mean, name your price. I think he should be 1 to 9 in this race. That's the way I look at it. So sure, maybe I'm going to take a lower price than some of you. I mean, I understand it's the Breeders' Cup, and if you don't want to take a short price on any horse, I get it. I'm not going to sit here and try to talk you into it. We all have our own value line, right? So, mine is obviously not 1 to 9, but if he's 1 to 2, yeah, I'll probably play him. And quite honestly, and I mean this is no disrespect to some of these other horses in the race. I like a few of them as far as them being horses, but if Life is Good loses this race, I'm going to just get tanked at the bar the rest of it and not watch the rest of the races on Saturday. I mean, he just looks way better than anybody else in this field.
Jared, do you agree with him?
I'll be tanked with him, so it's fine. I mean, because I'm gonna imagine we're gonna have a lot of bets going through this horse in this race. So if that happens, we'll just be getting drunk together. No, I mean, nothing came from this race as far as the draw goes that made me think, oh, interesting. I mean, he draws. I mean, he could have drew the 20th hole. It doesn't matter. I don't care. Like just run the race. I think he's as close as a lock as you can get in the Breeders' Cup.
Michael, let's spin this differently for you, and we can move on. You're playing the BCBC tournament with a couple entries this weekend. When you get to this race, do you skip it altogether? Can you skip a race? Or how would you approach playing this when you have a 4 to 5 who looks so damn impressive?
Well, my biggest score last year was with Monomoy Girl on top in a cold $1,000 exacta. So I think it returned $19 or $20 for a buck. So that was fun. So you can definitely find ways to play around it if you like a horse a lot in second place, right? And so I think that you can do that. We also just talked about the turf sprint. Well, maybe if you're this high up on Life is Good, you really like him, look at what the turf sprint, what does the winner pay and what does the double pay? And if you're getting more than even money, then the double's a damn good proposition. Because if Life is Good is sitting on the board at 4 to 5, I will probably be shoving one of my 2 BCBC entries on Life is Good to win, and just trying to double up and move along. And I think that this is one of those horses that you can do that this weekend. I think Ginobili drawing inside of Life is Good is the only thing that could be in any way, shape, or form possibly tough. But then you remember Life is Good sprinting against Jackie's Warrior and how he was able to clear him. And you Ginobili's cruising speed is nothing compared to Life is Good's cruising speed. And that is what Life is Good is going to do, is cruise. I think the bigger storyline, Snapper Sinclair is in this race? What the hell? Where did that come from?
They tried really hard to put him in the turf mile, and he was like 23rd in preference. So they said, well, we'll go to the dirt mile. We're here. We might as well run.
I mean,
It's a good shot.
If Life is Good wasn't in this race, would this be the worst Breeders' Cup race ever?
Yes. So that's the other thing, right? I mean, okay, let's say he's a lock, whatever, but who's he facing? That's the it's like we don't have a Nick's Go in here to face. We don't have a Jackie's Warrior that he face. I mean, there's nobody that can match up with him. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. Like Gamine, okay. But at least you have another option in like you said, Bella Sophia. I mean, what are you going to do? Silver State? I mean, he lost at Parks to mind control.
8 rings. Would it be great if Bob Baffert beats Life is Good now with a different trainer with 8 rings? Not great. I don't mean that really, but
well, listen. If 8 rings wins this race, it's over for me. My Saturday is done. They'll have to drag me out of there. I'll be passed out because that will be the worst.
Well, it's slightly different than Nick's reaction. Nick says the nice thing about having Life is Good and Gamine is heavy faves early. Yeah,
Slightly
well, you take the
gifted.
chalk, they lose. You got a lot left in the races after, which is kind of a little bit of what happened with you guys last year at the Breeders' Cup with the guide and the live wagering bankroll. Is that your Friday, you didn't start out that great, but you stayed with it, and then Saturday, especially those late races, it really paid off for you.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing, guys, as in the guys or people listening to the show, this thing, that stretch of races, it's going to get chalky. All right. And there's just not a whole lot you can do about it. But the stretch at the end and then the Friday races, there might be a favorite that wins within the sequences, but there's value to be had in those sequences outside of maybe that one standout favorite, So you just got to get through the early ones on Saturday, and then it's definitely going to spice up.
Well, things are definitely get spicy in the next race, the filly and mare turf, because, oh boy, fun field of 12 here. And poor Daria, we want to talk about the chalk getting some bad draws all the way outside 12 post, the defending champion. Inside of her, Warlike Goddess is your 7-2 favorite right now, but a pair of Love horses, Love and Love's Only You, are 4-1. A lot of us were surprised Love showed up here instead of against the boys in the turf. Did anybody look at this and go, shit, I got to rework this because I think I might put Love on top?
Yeah.
You and I were both on Love's Only You. Talk about it.
Well, yeah, I think Love's Only You is still going to be my top pick. I just really, we were talking about watching replays, and I understand that watching replays of the European horses is tricky. I mean, it's tricky. You just got to get on YouTube and start searching for them. But they are there. Most of them you'll find it. But this horse, Love's Only You, just a fantastic runner. You watch her race over in Japan. I think it was I can't remember the name of it, the 1-2 back that she won. Just really, really impressive. And then you can go watch the race in Dubai on Dubai World Cup night where she gets beat by Mishriff. And I can't quite remember the horse that finished second, but she was right there within a half length of those horses. She was fantastic. And it's just like, yeah, I really, really like this horse. But yeah, Love being in it obviously changes things a little bit as well. But honestly, guys, this is like maybe my favorite race of the whole Breeders' Cup. I mean, my gosh, these horses, other than the Classic, I'd say these horses in here are fantastic. And then you have Warlike Goddess, who's been nothing but unbelievable in her races here in the United States. So we got a great field for this one.
Jared, do you agree? Is this possibly your favorite race of the weekend based on the field and the quality?
Oh, I mean, it should be. And it really should be one of the better finishes. And frankly, who comes out of it should be a very highly regarded. I mean, they obviously are right now, but I mean, you win a race like this, it should be ultra competitive. You kind of have a good mix of internationals and Americans coming in. You have obviously, Chad Brown trying to do it, but he doesn't have really a superstar coming in. Like Love being here is like, oh, this is interesting. Then you got the Japanese horse, like Halterman mentioned, and then Warlike Goddess, who's been nothing but amazing all year, or most of the year, anyways. So you kind of have all the angles there. And then Daria, it's like, well, it's hard to discount her considering what she did. So, yeah, it kind of has all the different angles you're looking for. And really, it's not easy. It's not. I mean, you're going to have to come up with some sort of angle here in terms of how to get – I mean, Halterman, we're going to have to survive this race somehow. I know – I mean, I agree. I think that horse looks really good. But how we're going to get through this race is going to be interesting because it's going to be a hell of an effort to even get through it.
Well, the good news is if Life is Good loses, we won't have to worry about it. So.
We won't even see this race
No.
if Life is Good loses, so it won't matter.
There's still a late pick 5, isn't there? Isn't it? Or there's far. This is the fifth to last.
We won't be attending that.
There's 12 horses entered, and the trend that Jared puts out in the 14 Trends to Know is that you pretty much play Chad Brown or an international horse in this race, which sounds great until you realize 7 of the 12 entered are European or international horses, I should say. That counts as
Hey,
Japanese.
I'm not going to just give it to you on a silver platter, Magic, all right?
No,
You
I'm
gotta do
not.
some
Sorry,
work.
I'm not knocking you. I'm laughing that there's like, okay, you can use the trend, but that means you got to use 9 of 12 because the other 2 are Chad Brown horses in the spot. So, Mike, I guess when you're looking at where I'm going with this, Mike, is if you're playing a pick 5, pick 4, how deep do you feel you have to go in this race with the other legs that are around it?
Me personally, I'm going too deep here. I don't think you need to go deep here. I mean, this race is the perfect horse race. You've got the token speed, so nothing stupid will happen, and there's 2 of them, so that's nice. So no one can steal it up front. And then you have a bunch of really, really good horses. Adaria, whatever her name is on the 12, was going to be on my tickets and probably won't make it now because of this draw and everything else that's happened going into this race. She just doesn't seem like she's as good as she was last year. I probably am just going to play Love and Love's Only You and move along. Like, and if Warlike Goddess gets me, Warlike Goddess gets me. But to me, I think the international horses are better. Like we've talked about the races, these are the horses, the races that these two are coming out of and the horses that they faced in those. This again is a separator leg. You're not going to find a lot of tickets going too deep here. And so if you're able to say, I trust my opinion here, you're going to be able to make some money. And this is one of those where I'm willing to throw out Warlike Goddess. And I'm willing to throw out a die on the outside and try and get through here with just the 6 and the 8.
Ballsy. I love it. The next race here, this is the sprint. But I don't know if you want to try and go too deep here because the 2-horse Jackie's Warrior looks strong. The big surprise to me and possibly to you guys as well, 6-5? Really? Are we going to get 6-5 on Jackie's Warrior in this race, Aaron?
I doubt it. I seriously doubt it. I think we'll get more like 4-5. But, there are a few horses in here that are kind of interesting as opposed to the Life is Good race we were talking about where it's like, it's not great. Frenzy Fire is a really tough horse. Dr. Scheibel has been really good over this track and this year and really for 2 years now. The horse has just been really, really good. Following C coming out of a big win at Belmont. So there's some horses here that you can kind of play that you don't have to really make up cases for. But at the end of the day, I think Jackie's Warrior just a little too fast for this group. But yeah, 4-5 is where I would expect you're going to see on Jackie's Warrior.
Jared, you thinking Jackie's is a pretty strong single, especially at 6-5?
Yo, 6-5. I think if I can lock that up, that'd be fantastic. No, I don't necessarily. The way this horse has been running and the numbers this horse is, he just doesn't match up. They don't match up. I do get that there's several in here that at least give you some interest in terms of, well, if you're not going to play Jackie, like unlike the Life is Good race where you're like, well, if I'm not playing Life is Good, who the hell am I going to play? This one, at least you have some, obviously Falling Sea was very good last time, like you said, Dr. Scheibel. So there's some in here that you can kind of take, but just looking at the numbers and what Jackie's Warrior's done, you look at the back class and have to consider that Jackie's Warrior beat the pants off of Following Sea last time they faced. Hard to really go anywhere other than Jackie's Warrior. But I do understand if someone is going to, if you're say you're doing Somich's strategy and you do go thin in a leg that most people would go deep, I do get why you would play a few in here other than Jackie's Warrior to try to, knock out the whole pool.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, I think you go all here. I think if I've had people DM me or say something on Twitter about every single horse in this race except for the Japanese horse, that they could find an angler. There's a reason to like them. You're finally getting the right price on Lexitonian again at 20-1. Frenzy Fire would be very similar to last year's winner. And it's kind of this hard knocker that finally gets the job done. You get 10-1 there. Special Reserve, one of the best claims we've ever seen out of Mike Maker. It's been running very, very well. Very tough at 6 furlongs. Dr. Scheibel loves the track, has run well. Following C is taking steps forward. CZ Rocket, we all know about CZ Rocket. Like, you could make a legit case for at least 8 of the 9 if you really wanted to try. Jackie's Warriors plus 120 overseas right now. So if you do want to take her in a fixed odds market, you are getting that 6-5. This is one of those where I keeps going back and forth of whether or not it's like, do I single Jackie's Warrior or do I hit the all button? Because to me, those it's that wide open if you don't single Jackie's Warrior.
Especially if you think that you can get away with going contrarian. In the previous Light Flame Mare Turf and go too deep, you can afford to go all here. A lot of comments blowing up now. Nick Feldman, Special Reserve, getting Irad in the post position, feels like he's going to trip out. I know from talking to Nick, he's a huge fan of whoever Irad was going to ride in this race. And he says, editing note, Tyler riding Frenzy Fire. I fixed it, but thank you for that. And then people loving Lexitonian. Somebody thinking the Lexitonian is going to ruin their day. Some people thinking Lexitonian, this is when he bounces back. Mike, I know that the Lexitonian was a horse that you really loved in the Bing Crosby last year. So I'll be curious to see when the guide comes out what you do with your top 4 in that race. We'll move on to the mile here. We've got Master of the Seas missing a trainer. I need to fix that one as well. What are you doing, Magic? 14 horses total in this race. Spaceballs, Space Blue is Aaron's favorite horse. The 3-horse is your 3-1 favorite. Aaron, you convinced me after I watched a bunch of replays. This horse is something special. Talk about what you love about Spaceballs, Space Blues here.
Spaceballs is a great movie, an old movie. If you guys haven't seen it, people are watching. Watch watch Baseballs tonight. You won't be disappointed. But Space Blues, the horse, to me, it's just the replays. This horse just has a really solid kick down the stretch. Very solid resume coming over here as well. Great connections. Charlie Appleby's come over here with success all year long. So there's no question that he can continue that trend as well. Here's the deal, though. This is a bitch of a race, right? There are so many good horses in this race. To me, when I watch replays, Space Blues was the one that really jumped off the screen. Not saying some of the other ones didn't look good, because they did. But I do think he kind of stands out amongst all the European shippers. Another big problem in this race is, Blowout and Smooth Like Straight are two horses that are pretty fast early and can hold that speed on a track that favors speed a little bit. So they're a little dangerous as well. And then Mo Fours is over here too, who just looks like a monster lately. So there's a ton of options. But yeah, for me right now, Space Blues kind of stood out as far as the watch and race replays.
Mike, A, your opinion on Spaceballs, the movie, may the shorts be with you, and then B, your thoughts on the Breeders' Cup Mile.
Excellent movie, especially if you're drinking or doing anything else. It's a very good non-sober movie. It's amazing how good the chance that a California horse wins this race is. I mean, it's crazy to me to say that a California turf horse has a good shot at the mile, but you got Mo Fours, you got Hit the Road, you got Smooth Like Straight. All of them have legitimate chances in here. This is a tough field. And last year, the mile was the race where all it's going to be chaotic, it's going to be crazy, and 99-1 shot won that race. Who drew it from the AEs, right? So, this again feels like it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be crazy, and it's another really good horse race in the sense that you have multiple speed horses. You're not going to have anyone walk up front. You've got deep closers that have run. You have horses like Got Stormy that are going to, in Casa Creed, that are going to sit right behind that first set and make first run on the leader. So even if they're able to get by the speed, people are going to be coming from deep. So this is just one of those great horse races that you guys I'm going to be looking forward to watching this one. I've said, hey, in these tough races, be contrarian, try and go short, spread like crazy here. This is a tough race.
Spread as far as your arms will reach. Jared, the trend for this race is that the Americans went on a tear, winning 6 of 7, but then the last 3 years they were won by European bred horses. 2 of them were based overseas. Uni, British bred, British trained, but then she came over for Chad Brown and got the win. And Chad Brown has 2 of those American based but overseas bred horses here. Do you think an internationally born horse is going to beat the American born horses here?
That's a lot. I do think Blowout has a legit chance to steal this thing on the front end. I really wanted Pratt to choose to ride that one instead of stay with Mo Forza, because if he would have done that would have put me over the edge to pick Blowout there, because I think he rides. I mean, nothing against Rosario, obviously, but just something about when he's on Blowout, they drive really well. I think. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going international here. I really do. I get it. I mean, I get Somich's point that you have but you gotta love what Spaceballs has done. And then Pearls Galore. I think Pearls Galore is a little underlooked here at 12-1, a horse that finished second to Space Blues and now gets to go a little bit longer. Maybe that evens it out a little bit, but you're getting 12-1. So. I think there's prices all over the place that I'm interested in here. It's 15-1, so I guess it's interesting, but I hate Raging Bull, so I just can't. I mean, the numbers. If you won, it wouldn't be shocking, but I just can't. You can't trust that horse.
No, absolutely not. I will promise you one thing that you can trust is that if Space Blues takes the lead at the 16th pole, you will hear all of us on the rail screaming Spaceballs as drunkenly loud as possible. You can lock that one up. We'll move on to the Distaff, where some people think there's a lock here. The 6 Latruska is the 8-5 favorite, but if you've been listening to anybody on the Racing Dudes team, we're all pretty iffy on her. A couple horses here that are interesting cheaters: Devil 4-1, Malathat, the 3-year-old, at 4-1. Bob Baffert, a little sneaky. Private Mission, 3-year-old, draws the rail 8-1. Jared, I'll start with you. This is a race that a lot of times class, you can look at the winner and be like, yes, that makes sense. That is a Breeders' Cup Distaff winner. And I feel like that maybe that cuts a lot of these horses out here. How deep are you looking to go against Latruska?
Oh, man. You know what? I think you can go. If you're playing against her, To me, she's an all or nothing type of play. If you're going to play her, I think you can single. And I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to single her, but I think if you do feel like she's going to win, there's no really need, because to me, she's that kind of horse. She's an all or nothing type of horse. If you're playing against her, I think you could go 5 or 6 horses. I mean, really, I Royal Flag keeps kind of growing on me. Malathot, obviously. Clariere, like, it wouldn't be shocking to see, Steve Asmussen, this horse continues to get better and better. She Dares the Devil obviously has a big time shot as well. I guess Private Mission could steal the thing. I think Private Mission drawing the rail is very, very bad for Latruska, because I do think they're going to go out of the rail, and Latruska is going to have some major company.
Aaron, let's go off of what Jared's talking about. That say Private Mission out-hustles or outhoofs Latruska for the lead into the first turn, and you see Irad kind of sit back a little bit and sit off. If you see that going to the first turn, is Latruska off? Are you just like, that's it, she is not winning this race?
Boy, that's the $1 million question, right? When Latruska drew, I thought, 6, that's perfect. The Private Mission is going to cause a problem, I think, from the rail. Yeah, I've been thinking all 2-3 weeks now that Private Mission is gonna cause that problem for Latruska. Yeah, I think she's kind of gonna be the one that's gonna get her beat finally. I am really worried about Latruska getting that position that we're used to her getting when she's won all these races here lately. And if you remember, in the Azeri, they tried to rate Latruska off the speed, and she got beat by She Dares the Devil. So to me, she's a need the lead type. I think you can beat her in this spot. I think Private Mission is a big problem for her.
Mike, on the Magic Mike show, some things that you like to goad me into is betting which horse is going to be leading at which point. Nick Feldman says that Latruska, we had a comment that threw me off there. Private Mission will be the leader at the half-mile call. Do you agree with that? And if that's the case, is Private Mission winning?
Private Mission isn't winning, so I'll answer that first. Will Private Mission be the leader at the half-mile call? I'm going to say no, but I'm going to say Private Mission does enough to get Latruska beat late. I think that this is one of those scenarios where I agree with Aaron. I think Latruska needs the lead. I think Irad knows that Latruska needs the lead. I think Latruska is going to have to work hard for the lead. And that is going to set up a situation where you're going to have horses that are both sitting kind of third or fourth, get first run, and the deep closers are going to have legit shots at running down Latruska. And yes, she's won her last 2 races. But if you go back and you watch those replays at Saratoga, there were multiple horses that could have got her with better trips. She was starting to suck wind late. Same thing last time out. Latruska has been phenomenal all year, running every race, every track, everywhere. And now she's got to do it against the best of the best with pace pressure. This is a big time ask. I mean, this is to me the horse you kind of have to fade from a favorite perspective, because it's just there's a lot of question marks right now with Latruska.
Speaking of question marks, who wants to play Rock Emperor in the Breeders' Cup Turf at 15-1, drawing the rail? Not me. Big field here, though. 14 amazing horses in this race, and this is including without Love being in this race. This is still incredible, including the fillies. Broom is here, and your defending champion Tarnawa. Boy, just like Adaria, drawn way outside, 13-1, 9-5 favorite. And Aaron, when this came out, I could hear you thinking this through. You're like, God, 13, 9-5, 13, 9-5. Can you play her from the 13 post at 9-5?
Gosh, that's the question. I got to make up my mind here in a couple hours before I finish up the guide page on this one. She's coming into this race this year better than last year. I really believe that. It just kind of feels like she's having a tough ass year from a luck perspective. Of course, won on debut this year, herded out 20 paths the next time out, still gets second, should have got moved up to first. And then last time out on the arc, ran fantastic over a bog of a turf course, gets second again. I'm thinking, all right, she's coming into this perfect, and then draws this. Listen, it's not great. The good news is she does come from out of it. So maybe just drop back and hope she's good enough to just kind of circle the field, right? Because you're not going to save any ground. You're not going to get any position. She's going to get hung wide, and hopefully she can make that run. But yeah, I mean, it's cause for concern. As can't think of the announcer's name. As Tom Durkin would say, there's cause for concern. So I don't know.
It's about to be the one time Mike Somich was going to correct you live on air.
Yeah.
You knew that one.
I knew that one. Come on,
You
man.
did know that one.
The historian in me was there that time.
Is it the Somich?
Mike, I'll stick with you. Domestic spending drew post 3 pretty well. 4-1. This was the horse that until the Arlington Million, we're like, hey man, this is the one horse that can beat the Euros. And then he had a really bad pace set up that day. Wasn't able to get the victory. We haven't seen him since. 4-1 makes him the second choice. Is that too short to play on domestic spending in this field?
No. I mean, because it really, like, if you like domestic spending, I don't know why you don't like him now. If you liked him before the Arlington race, right? Now, the one difference is Europe showed out. They came. Like, this is a good group of Europeans that are flying over to take or to run in this field. Tanawa is a monster. I agree with Aaron. I don't think the 13th post is going to make me not use Tanawa. Like, she's the best horse in the field. Is the question is, can she get the trip now? Tribuvin's a little interesting. The other Chad Brown. I mean, but again, to domestic spending, like the reason Arlington or Mr. D went the way the Mr. D went was the pace. You're going to have more pace here. You got Acclimate and you've got Tribuvin, who both want to be more forwardly placed. You're going to see a little bit more pop early. It should set up well for domestic spending. And then, you get that 3 post. And the question is, if you think domestic spending is better than all the Euros except Tarwana, then it's the question of, are you going to out-trip her? And from the 3, you're probably going to out-trip Tarwana from the 13, right? So, or Tanawa from the 13. So in that case, I don't think 4-1's a bad price on domestic spending.
Jared, I'll go to you. 7 Walton Street was a horse that when he won the Canadian International at Woodbine, you texted me. You're like, man, I really liked how that horse looked. I think he's going to be pretty good for the Breeders' Cup. Hey, Greg, that was months ago, and things have changed. Do you still have that same opinion about Walton Street?
Yeah, I really do like him. I'm not sure I like him enough to beat Tornadoe or domestic and like where I'm at, but I definitely think he's like a horse that's getting better and better. So, obviously Appleby's been unbelievable this year when he brings horses over. So I think Walton Street is certainly a horse I'll be using, especially underneath. I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm really close to pulling the trigger on domestic spending. I'm not going to lie. Like, he's got his buddy in the race now, he's got Trubovin or whatever, so it's like he's got the horse out front. Exactly, Nick. I mean, he's got his buddy, and he's going to, the problem is Tarnaw knows a thing or two about closing as well. And, that's going to be the trick there. Haltern, we might have another really hard exact on our hands here. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. You talked about trips for domestic spending in Tarnawa, and I agree with your thoughts. Somich, I do. But the horse that could set up to get the best trip is Walton Street, because that horse has some tactical speed, really good tactical speed for a European shipper. So that may be the one that gets first run on him, guys. That horse is dangerous at 8-1.
Plenty of ways to slice this. And looking at the chat, you saw Nick Feldman's comment on Jose with Tribuvan. Steve Gilfeather says, like, Tiona to the moon. I don't know. Tiona's one of the horses I need to go back and watch a lot more replays on. Don't know much about. The 6-1 definitely caught my attention. Sisfahan, a sneaky good, ran second to the ARC winner from Germany. Torquedor Tasso, something like that. I expect with the Tribuvan. Is that how he was? Tribuvan, there he is. Oh, I wish Borat Capper was going to be at the Breeders' Cup. One last race to talk about, guys. The classic race, the one we were all excited about for the post-draw. And it kind of reminded me of when Tiz the Law was competing for the Kentucky Derby and the Breeders' Cup Classic. It was like, man, they're down to just the last couple, and it could be a really good draw, it could be a really bad draw. And we end up seeing it. Hot Rod Charlie with post 3, Knicks Go post 5, Medina Spirit post 8. Essential Quality post 4. After that, wide open for long shot odds, but it seems like at least John White thinks it's a 4-horse race. Aaron, are those kind of your 4 horses that you're between right now?
Yep.
Jared? Same for you, Jared? Like the shortest odds horses, that's who you're looking at?
Yep.
Mike?
Yep.
All right.
I wish this was more interesting, but the fact of the matter is Knicks Go is really freaking good. And Knicks Go drew to the inside of Medina Spirit, so there's no one that can really push Knicks Go. Don't say Hot Rod Charlie, anyone. Please don't say Hot Rod Charlie. And then you look at Tripoli, Express Train, Stiletto Boy, Max Player, Art Collector. We really getting on any of those ships? I mean, come on. You don't want to sink that early.
Clock End Farms is kind of agreeing with you. Says, I have a feeling this might be the most boring classic ever. Chalk in all 4 places. It could be.
I don't know I mean, what are you looking for in terms of excitement? Because this has I could not make a single bet in this race and be excited for this one. I think this is going to be a freaking fantastic, fun race. It's got all the makings. It's got horses of the year potential, with several in here that if they win, they're probably going to be crowned horse of the year. Obviously, Knicks Go, and Essential Quality, those two side by side. And and I'm with Somich. I think kind of the pause there as they were drawing is like if Medina Spirit would have drew inside of Knicks Go, that at least would have given you something to say, well, Medina's going to take first run there, and Knicks Go is going to have. But now, there's really nothing that. Hot Rod being inside of that. Hot Rod drew great. He drew as good as he can draw here. He's going to have to be pretty fast to run with Knicks Go. I think Knicks Go is going to be the ultimate kind of Achilles for Hot Rod.
Hey, Clockend did clarify that the Clockend likes upsets and there isn't going to be one, so that's what they meant by being boring. I don't think anybody disagrees. It's going to be an exciting one because of the implications for so many awards like you were talking about there, Jared. Aaron, you look like you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as we get closer to this thing, it just kind of feels like the strategy for the rest of these horses are just let Knicks Go out to the lead and hope that he can't get a mile and a quarter, right? Like, look how they're training Hot Rod Charlie. Like, he's behind horses. He's coming from off the pace, and in the simulated workouts, Essential Quality, what his strategy is. He's kind of he has one strategy to sit mid pack and try to pounce. Well, I hate to tell him, but if they just let Knicks go, and well, hopefully he won't get a mile and a quarter. It's not going to go well. And to me, his path to winning is very clear, where the rest of them really need some help. So I'm going to take the one that's path is clearest to winning. Logically, I think that's what you have to do.
Mike Vinny heard you. He says if Hot Rod breaks well, he can make Knicks Go easy a little more early to get over to the rail.
No, he can't. No, he can't. Hot Rod Charlie isn't as fast as Medina Spirit, like multiple lengths slower out of the gate than Medina Spirit. And Medina Spirit is going to have a hard time staying with Knicks Go. The fact that some people look at the early time of half miles, and we talked about a lot leading up to the Derby, there were certain horses that were fake fast. Hot Rod Charlie is a fake fast horse. He's not that quick, but when there's not a really fast horse in the race, he can get the lead. Hot Rod Charlie's going to trip out like crazy in this race. If he's good enough, he'll be able to beat Knicks Go, but he's not good enough. But that's beside the point. But he's going to trip out. Knicks Go is going to be on the lead on the inside. Medina Spirit's going to be pushing him somewhat or trying to outside of him. And Hot Rod Charlie is clearly going to be that horse sitting in third.
Yep.
And so if he's good enough, he will have every chance to win this race turning for home. I think Hot Rod Charlie, to me, I would say is 90% chance to hit the board, second or third, and about a 1% chance to win the race. It's that drastic of a don't use in multi-race, make sure you use underneath type horse.
Well, he has two problems, right? Number one, we're not sure he can catch Knicks Go. We're pretty sure he can't. But even if Knicks Go gets soft up, do you remember the Belmont? He couldn't hold off Essential Quality, so he's got a Cox problem at both ends, so to speak. Right? And nobody likes those guys.
The classic Eiffel Tower issue.
Definitely not at both ends. You know what I mean?
That's bad news for everybody involved. So I don't know what he can really do. His best bet is Knicks Go doesn't go on at the top of the stretch, and the Essential Quality doesn't fire. But that goes back to what I'm saying. He needs help from a couple of horses, right? Essential Quality, how does he win? Well, somebody's got to soften up Knicks Go. They all need help. Where Knicks Go, it's just okay, you're drawing us on all the speed. Break and run. You should win.
And like Jason says, you don't want a Cox problem.
No.
We'll wrap things up here because in 4 minutes, the Jared Welch Kansas City Chiefs are going to be taking on the New York Michael Spector Borat Capper Giants. So we need to get out of here because Jared needs to mentally prepare himself for that victory. Guys, we'll go around the clock, the horn real quick. I'll start with Jared. Your final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, what's even more amazing about that is I actually just got back from Kansas City. So I was in Kansas City, took the boys to Dude Perfect. I was like, hey, can we just stay? And the Monday night game's in town. They're like, no, I don't want to go. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's going to be, for one, it's not. Anyways, don't even sure.
Long weekend for him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm ready to dive in. You know, I've dove in. Now I got the odds. I got the post positions. Now I can make my final choices. And I mean, I'm ready to be there. Honestly, we'll be. Someone asked earlier. I don't remember who. We will be there. We'll be in Del Mar. Everyone on this feed here. We'll be at Del Mar this weekend. So yeah, if you're gonna be there, hit us up. I know one thing. It's freaking cold here now, and it's rainy. Like seems like every day. Give me Del Mar like now.
Got 3 hoodies in the picture.
Yeah.
And one doing a t-shirt. Guess where the t-shirt guy's from.
And shorts. T-shirt and shorts. Aaron, your final thoughts.
Oh, I mean, I've got about 5 hours ahead of me here, and I could probably answer your question a lot better in the morning after the guide's kind of done. I've got a lot of work on it done, and now it's just refining and like I said, going back and circling back on things after the draw. But yeah, I guess final thoughts. Like I said, guys, you're going to have to choke down some short prices at this. It's inevitable. Just do it. But there's going to be some races where there's going to be big time value as well. And so you just have to choke down a short price or two in this thing, but don't get discouraged because there's also going to be sequences that are going to pay a ton.
Mr. Somich.
This is the classic hammer your opinions, right? Like, because you're going to have some of these short prices, and if you can be right in the legs where you're not spreading and everyone else is, and you're clicking with other short prices, you can get some nice pick threes here. If you really like, let's say Life is Good, you've got 2 crazy turf races before and after it. Like, play a pick 3 there, going 2 by 1 by 2 for $10-$20. And if you hit that, your weekend's made. I mean, so I think there's a lot of good opportunities. I think the late pick 5 could pay absolute stacks if Latruska goes down. I can't believe Latruska's a shorter price right now than Knicks Go. Even overseas right now, you get 2-1 on Knicks Go, and Latruska's plus 165. So to me, it's just crazy that you got that juxtaposition. And then something we've all been texting, kind of like chalk it out on the dirt, take a price on the turf. Like, that seems to be the theme of this weekend.
Yep.
It's going to be a fun weekend. Thanks, everybody, for the kind comments. Everybody, as we're signing off here, is putting a lot of nice comments in the chat, so thank you. Jared touched on our Stephanie question about being there. Yeah, we love meeting the fans. If we do this because we love horse racing, we love bullshitting with each other while we drink. What do you think we're going to do for 2 days at the Del Mar for the Breeders' Cup? So by all means, come find us. Yeah, Aaron's going to go find the same open bar that they had at Kentucky Derby Day where they literally didn't pay for all the alcohol in Louisville. So we're going to go look for that. Del Mar, come find us. It'd be a lot of fun. If you're going to be there, let us know. Shoot us a message, contact at racingnews.com, and We'll meet up. We'll have some drinks, have some fun, and cash some bets. So for Jared Welch, Aaron Halterman, Mike, nope, shit, I almost had it. Mike, you're usually on the other side of me. Mike Somich, I'm Curtis Kalleward. Thank you so much. One more time, give us a like, a thumbs up on this. Subscribe to the Racing Dudes YouTube channel because this is just the beginning. We got a lot of
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.